Hello retro gamers and welcome to episode 3 of RGO Goes Op Shopping, in brackets, thrifting, because that's what we call thrifting in Australia, op shopping. Op shops stand for opportunity shops, which as thrift stores are usually, charity organisations selling stuff for really cheap, or usually really cheap. If you haven't seen the first 2 episodes, please go check those out. It has been a while since I've released one, however, I believe the last one was in September. And the reason for that is it's just getting really hard to find games in op shops. I've been op shopping for games for at least 10 years now, and it's never been this hard. Honestly, I wished I made this video series years and years ago, because I used to go out on single runs and just buy entire collections of games, like 10, 20 games at a time. And now I'm lucky to find about 20 games for an entire episode filmed over 6 months. It's getting really difficult. In some shops, I say some shops, and actually a lot of shops I'm going into now, I'm not finding a single game, like not even games I want to play or buy, like, there'll be FIFA or Sim expansions. There's just that usual crap that's always filler on the shelf. All those, shareware PC game packs. I think op shops have just given up on trying to sell those. They've been sitting on the shelf for years, and I think they've just gone in the bin. So it is getting hard, but over a 6-month period, I have found enough, I feel like, for a coherent episode. Unlike that sentence I just tried to say, that didn't come out very coherently. And yeah, just as an added thing, I have mentioned this in the last 2 episodes. Of course, this is very much inspired by LGR, specifically his series LGR Thrifts. And back before I made the first episode, I did actually get his blessing, just to make sure he didn't mind that I was completely and utterly ripping him off. So yeah, just so you know, little disclaimer. Anyway, let's hit the road and let's go op shopping. Today we're starting off at this Salvos location, and as per usual, I made a beeline for the multimedia section. The first games I saw were exactly as expected. We've got the staples there, a Wii Fit, FIFA 2008, Leapstar, a few more educational titles. Yeah, nah, not a good start. On the shelf above, however, in between the Italian travel pack and a couple of seasons worth of the TV show Bones, we have a couple of Uncharted games. There's the first one, Drake's Fortune, as well as Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. Obviously I'm not going to buy these, I bought them long ago, but these are really great games and should hopefully be a good find for someone. From memory, they were about $5. Also above that was Battlefield 3 on Xbox 360, that'll be a bit of a pass, as well as Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which I've already played, so also pass. And also above those, I found this. Ooh! Scrounging around the store and I found this. Toilet soccer, only $4. Practice your soccer skills while on the throne. Even comes with a little do not disturb tag. I wonder if that was still in there. But eventually, I did find something I wanted to buy. Check this out, it is a Sony CD player that can accept up to 5 discs. Now, I know most people aren't really that interested in CDs anymore, but personally, I like CDs. They have a much higher quality than people actually realize, and I do have a rather large collection. I didn't, however, have a standalone player. Every time I wanted to play a CD, I basically had to use my PlayStation 5 and play it through my TV. So for $30, even if it is missing the remote control, this is an awesome buy. You just don't see these very often. I think this will look great with my also Sony record player. But the fun at this Salvos wasn't finished. Inside the glass cabinet that was next to the counter, there was another pile of games. While I did nearly own everything that I liked in this stack, apart from Charles Angel's Full Throttle on UMD Video, I did see a few Xbox games at the bottom that piqued my interest. I've always been a big fan of the Spyro games on PS1, so I've been meaning to check out the entries on the later consoles, even though I hear they weren't as good, but I like to form my own opinion. And for $10, I think it's worth the risk. I was also interested to see what that other Xbox game was, but it turned out just to be a generic looking golf game, so that stayed right there. There was also a pile of DS games in the same cabinet, but honestly there is nothing interesting here. Not worthy enough for the locked glass cabinet, if you ask me. But then on the other side of the store, there was a huge bin full of even more games, mixed in with other movies and educational crap like that. I've never personally heard of Sprint Cars Road to Knoxville, but it looks crap enough that I think it could be a fun review. My girlfriend also found Cooking Mama 4, which she seemed pretty excited about, but interestingly this was sealed and they'd only put a $1 label on it, so I'm not sure why that wasn't in the cabinet. Checking prices out online, it actually appears that this is quite an expensive 3DS game, relatively so yeah, good find for her. Anyway, I got the Sony CD player home and it is fully functional. You may have even already seen this in a few different videos. For one, I built a little shelf for it in my 2022 holiday video, which was actually the first video I released this year. And most recently, I used it as B-roll in my Wonders of the Retro Gaming World episode I released last week. Anyway, onto a nearby second-hand shop, of which I totally forgot to film the front of, so here is some generic Street View footage. And inside for 12 bucks, I found Archer McLean's Mercury. Now, I hadn't personally heard of this game myself, but I am a fan of Archer McLean, so I'm very excited to give this a go. Also in the same store, I bought this Kenwood branded amp for $85. I have a pretty generic one for my record player and now my Sony CD player, which is now in the same setup, so I wanted something a bit better. Unfortunately, this isn't quite what it seems. It's an amp, but it also requires another preamp. It's a whole thing. Anyway, unfortunately I had to return this because spending the money on a preamp kind of made this cheap purchase a bit pointless. Anyway, we have to move on, so let's check out this different Salvos location. As per usual, I checked the glass cabinet first, and it was full of these Mario Kart figurines. Pretty cool, but not really the sort of thing I collect, and I don't really know if $10 each is a good price or not. Still, these weren't there the next time I went in, so it must have been a bargain for someone. Into the multimedia section, and we have quite a few copies of FIFA 17 on Xbox One. Complete mystery how those are still there. Regardless, I found Call of Duty World at War Final Fronts on PS2. Now, I'm not the biggest Call of Duty player ever, but I do enjoy the series and I haven't played this one, so I bought it. It was only $3. And next to that, we have this gem. At least, I think it's going to be a gem. The Sniper 2. Yeah, the Sniper 2. I can't even imagine what the Sniper 1 was, but I bought it because it has this absolute seal of quality on it. Midas. Yeah, Midas made some very notoriously horrible games on PS1, so to see that they were still kicking around in the PS2 generation makes me very happy indeed. So like that Race to Knoxville game from before, I think this will make quite a fun review. Alright, onto a good Sammy's now. I feel like I've given Salvos enough money for the time being. And here's something you don't see every day, a PC power supply. Now, I've never heard of this brand, Hipper, and I'm not really one to buy generic brands when buying PC power supplies. I feel like it's just too much of an important part to skimp out. But still, interesting to see it nonetheless. It was 580 watts. No price listed on it though. I would have been curious to see how much they were charging for it. I wonder if anyone actually bought this. Into the multimedia section now, and there actually is quite a few games here, even if they are mostly Wii Play, Wii Fit and Sim expansions. But still, there is a pretty decent collection of PS3 games as well. I already own most of those because I am a big fan of the system, but I did cherry pick two which I didn't have. Army of Two, as well as Dante's Inferno. These are games I remember reading about back in the day and just never really got a chance to play. I can't really remember if Dante's Inferno was considered any good or not, but I do believe Army of Two was a bit of a flop. But for $3 or $4 each, I'm more than willing to give them a go all these years later. Onto a Vinnies now, and this is the Vinnies I go to quite a bit, and I have never found a single thing, but today my persistence paid off. It's not really gaming related, but more channel related. I found this pretty decent looking tripod. Still, not the creme of the crop, it's not a major manufacturer or anything, but I think it would be great as a secondary tripod. The secondary I'm using at the moment is from Big W, which is like a sort of budget department store, and it is a bit flimsy, but this feels way more solid, so for $15, this is coming home with me. There are some delightful stock photos on here, but I don't think this is actually as old as it looks, because if you check the bottom of the box, there's actually a website. Regardless, someone originally paid $49 for this from Cash Converters, so I did better than them. And finally for op shops in this episode, we have this one that's run by a church somewhere in the country. Unfortunately, however, I did leave empty-handed. I did find Super Mario Bros. On Wii, as well as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 on PS2, but unfortunately both these boxes were empty. I did ask the lady behind the counter if she did happen to have the discs, but unfortunately not. Part of me feels like maybe I should have just bought these anyway and then sourced the discs really cheap by themselves online, but hindsight is 2020. A real shame. As a bit of a bonus, I checked out this retro gaming store in Midland called 8-Bit Anarchy. They were nice enough to let me have a bit of a film around, at least in a more leisurely way compared to the more secretive way I usually do it in op shops. But they really had some cool stuff in this shop. They also share the space with a record and cassette store, which was also quite cool. There were these PVMs, as well as a cabinet full of really cool items. Of course, being a PlayStation fanboy, I was immediately drawn to these PSXs. But as you can see, there was a bunch of other goodies in there as well. I also made a stop at Beyond Retro at the Morley Coventry Markets, which is always a favourite of mine, but I didn't film in the store. I did find Tetris Sphere for $10 however, as well as a mystery $5 Atari 2600 cartridge. It appears like the sort of thing you'd buy from Bali back in the day, but I'm pretty keen to plop this in and see what it's all about. My partner also bought Resident Evil 2 on PS4 for a pretty decent price. But like the last episode, we finished the day off with a burger and a pint at a Varsity Burger and watched the football. Nice. But all in all, not a bad haul. The tripod and the Sony CD player are definitely the highlights, but we do have a good mix of games from a bunch of different generations as well. I think these will be suitable for some pretty decent videos. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.